trying to do everything yourself on your own as a leader or as a CEO, you are killing yourself and you will be killing your company growth. In this video, I'll be sharing with you the art of delegation for leaders and for CEOs. This is the 9th episode of the CEO Leadership Series. And in this video, we're looking at the art of delegation for CEOs. Thank you for joining me on this episode, the episode of the CEO Leadership Strategy Series. I'm Dr. Lumo Alisanya. I'm an executive coach and consultant. And this episode of the art of delegation of CEOs, we'll be looking at how leaders should delegate. This video is for you if you're a leader, you lead people, and you want to know how to delegate effectively. Think about it. If you try to do everything by yourself, as a CEO, as a leader, you find out that you burn out quickly. You feel burdened by a load of work. The fact that you have to do all the thinking by yourself, and you have to actually also do most of the operational things by yourself. What is the way around this? And how can we, as leaders, challenge this common negative CEO habit of micromanagement and actually turn around and embrace very good leadership skills that will help us to empower our team members and make sure that we're able to focus on what is visionary. It's very, very important. And in this episode, I'm going to be unlocking, the art of strategic delegation, how you can, give up control in a way, so that you can focus on the most important things. It's not actually that you're giving up control. You're actually delegating. You are transferring power. You're empowering your leaders to actually focus on what they should focus on their level, where you focus on what is more strategic, what's more compelling, to ensure that you empower your team for sustainable growth in your company. So this video has 5 chapters. We do the introduction, and I go into the deep dive into the concept of the topic, which is the art of delegation for CEOs today. And we look at the deep dive. From the deep dive, we're now going to case studies or real life stories and business learnings that actually speak to this topic of today. We take 2 of those case studies. I'll explain it. I'll also share from my own personal experience. Then we'll now go into the question and answer section. Questions that have been curated by listeners, and I will answer those questions drawing from my own experience, and also talking about the principles we've already learned earlier in the video. Then we have the call to action where we summarize the entire video. We take a charge and say bye from there. So those are the 5 sections of this video today. So come along, tag along, let's do justice to this topic. So welcome back. So the art of delegation for CEOs. Let's do a deep dive. What's the art of delegation? What's delegation itself? Have you ever talked about it? And we look at it from perspective, which will be 3 perspectives, or 4 actually. We look at it from 4 perspectives that I've thought about in this video. So the first is, what do I actually delegate? How do I identify as a leader what I should delegate? This is very strategic, very, very key to know that. What are you supposed to identify as a leader as what you should delegate? So the first thing, before you can identify what to delegate, you first have to be able to identify and categorize the task. What are the tasks of the job? You break the job into tasks. Identify the tasks and categorize them. And the way you categorize the tasks, what you will achieve at the end of the day is to be able to distinguish between the tasks that are essential for your own direct involvement as a leader or as a CEO versus the tasks that can be delegated and handed over to your subordinates. Delegating is an act of empowering your subordinates to actually take on tasks that will encourage them to grow, that encourage them to gather a lot of experience so you can focus on what is more strategic as the overall leader. So you want to identify the task. You want to categorize the task so that you know the things that only you have to focus on and the things that your subordinates can focus on. So earlier in my career, when I became a CEO, I had to sit down, do some deep thinking, and categorize the tasks that I think I only have to work on for things to succeed, and the tasks that I can empower my subordinates with, that I can focus on the things that are critical for me to actually achieve as a leader. So I did that as a leader, and I was able to categorize those tasks into two: the one that I only need to do, and the ones that I can delegate to my subordinates. I mean, I did that. I felt very relieved. Most of the burden was lifted off my shoulders. I was able to focus on things that are more strategic and move ahead with the work. So first, identifying what you need to delegate. And for you to do that, you have to do what we call task categorization. Divide the task into what you only need to do as a leader and what your subordinate need to do. Then you can introduce what I call the delegation audit. And that's what I was trying to describe earlier. List your weekly tasks as a leader, and mark the ones that are strategic that only you need to do as a leader, as a CEO, and the ones that are not strategic that you can delegate to your subordinates. That's what is called a delegation audit. So once you do that, then you now know what should go to your subordinate, what should go to yourself. And you review this list gradually over time. The second point is empowering your team. You need to empower your team. And the way you empower your team is the first way to do that is to set clear expectations and steps for accountability. Discuss with your team members the importance of setting clear, measurable goals. And this is good because when you delegate, it's easy for you to assess their performance for the tasks that you have delegated to them. And it's also easy for them to appraise themselves as they do the job so that it is not seen to be sentimental or biased the way they assess at the end of the day based on the task that has been delegated to them. So you want to make sure that you do that. Set clear expectations and accountability. Then use practical frameworks that help to guide them. Things like the key performance indicators, KPIs, that you can use to regularly check in and measure what task has been done, to what extent, and you can usually use that for constant oversight and review over time from time to time. And the second part of empowering your team is building trust. You want to make sure that you build trust with your team members, your subordinates, and you do this by ensuring that it's transparency. People watch what you do, not what you say. And they want to see that what you say aligns with what you do. When, as a leader, what you say aligns with what you do, then you have subordinates that will trust you. Not only will they trust you, they will respect you as a leader. So building trust is about transparency. Do what you say. Make sure that you don't only say it because talk is cheap. Do what you say and communicate effectively, recognize achievements, and provide constructive feedback to your subordinates. You should criticize actions and not personalities. When people do things that are wrong, speak to what they've done that is wrong. Don't talk down on them. Don't belittle them. Don't demonize them. And don't make them lose their dignity because they made a mistake. Speak to what is wrong and make sure that you give that feedback that is constructive, that is transparent, that is objective. If there are disciplinary guidelines that the person has breached, yes, subject the person to disciplinary action. There's nothing wrong in that. Disciplinary actions are supposed to help to guide, are supposed to help to shape people to conform to the culture in an organization. It doesn't mean that it's punitive. And when people continue to do things repeatedly and they are not making changes, despite being corrected, despite being guided, then we want to show them the way out. Because if we leave those people in the organization, they will destroy the organization. So that's it about that. Set clear expectation and accountability and build trust as a leader. The third aspect on this deep dive is to overcome the psychological barriers to delegation. And there are about 3 of them that have been identified, 3 psychological barriers that have been identified. The first one is common fears. What are the common fears that you may have as a leader? In my own experience, the most common fear that most leaders and CEOs will have about delegation, which can serve as a psychological barrier, is the fear of losing control. A lot of leaders feel that they're going to lose control when they delegate. And they have this anxiety, that outcomes may not be met, expectations may not be met when they delegate to other people. You want to realize that you did not become a leader overnight. People have to trust you with responsibilities, trust you with authority for you to become the leader that you are today. So you must be able to also reproduce the same thing in people by making sure that you can trust them and you can actually delegate to them, guiding them to also take good decisions under your guidance. So you need to overcome common fears. But the second thing is you need to address mindset shifts, and you need to be able to accept mindset shift. You must be able to accept the mistakes, as being part of learning. Accept that mistakes are part of learning in an organization and in life as a whole. Mistakes are part of learning, and mistakes are points where a lot of learning can be achieved. So you want to make sure that you do this and you make sure that you use mistakes as points of learning for your team members. Know that long-term benefits of developing this mindset is very, 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 very beneficial to your organization. You want to make sure you develop teams that are capable and that can function when you're not there. So if you have coached them, you have supported them to take decisions, and they have learned from making mistakes, then they would avoid those mistakes and they will do things properly. The next item I'm allowed to discuss are tools and frameworks and models that are good with us learning how to delegate. And the first is the Delegation Matrix, which is a visual tool that can help you decide what tasks to delegate. When you have done your delegation audit, like I said earlier, you now want to visualize, you want to put it in some visual way to see what you're going to delegate and what you are not going to delegate. And once you do that, it's easy for you to, know visually and to help you to remember the things that are for you to focus on and the things that are for your team to also focus on. You can share this with your team also so that it helps them in their learning to actually have a framework they are looking at. They know that, okay, this is what the CEO, the leader focuses on. This is our own responsibility. This is our own contribution. This is how we support decision-making in the organization. There are also tools like quadrants that explain different sides of, a structure. For example, you have the do, delegate, defer, and eliminate quadrant. You can break down your tasks into what you do, what you delegate, what you defer to other people, and what you eliminate. So you can use that, as tools to help you with delegation. So I've talked about the delegation matrix. I've talked about quadrants. We do, delegate, defer, and eliminate the DDDD, 3D, I'll put it that way, 3D quadrants. That's the do, the delegate, the defer, and the eliminate. So there's some tasks you want to eliminate. There's some tasks you want to defer to other people. There's some tasks you want to delegate. There are times you want to do yourself. So So you can also do that. You can use those quadrants as those are tools and models you can use. Then step-by-step process. You also want to use step-by-step process to your team. You list out the tasks, you evaluate the tasks, and you assign the tasks to different people. You also want to classify the task, define each area, and you classify it. And who is going to take ownership of each task? Make it clear to your team members, and make sure that you now go ahead and assign those tasks to them. Then when you assign those tasks to them, then you now review from time to time. So if we're going to look at the step-by-step process of how to delegate, you want to assess all your tasks, list and evaluate all the tasks. Number two, classify the tasks into different levels so that you know the ones that you will take, the one you will delegate to people below you. Then you want to assign the tasks to your team members. And the last thing is to review from time to time. Reviewing can be from your weekly meetings, weekly management review meetings, can be monthly, then quarterly business review meetings, and you review those tasks from time to time. Of course, you'll have set KPIs, and you look at these KPIs, you use to appraise your team members on how they've managed the tasks you have handled to them. So that's the step-by-step process. So we talked about overcoming psychological barriers, we talked about common fears, mindset shifts, tools and models that we can use, and step-by-step process, which is what I've listed earlier. So we're going to the last part of the deep dive, which is best practices for effective delegation. So what are the best practices for effective delegation? My own experience, the first thing is that you have to document. You have to create standard operating procedures, create documentations that have guidelines on tasks. What are the tasks that are available for the job? Which department is responsible for different tasks? And you delegate those tasks accordingly. And it has to be documented. You have to create guidelines. You have to create documentation for recurring tasks so that people can read them, people can refer to them. They will serve as manual, they'll serve as guides. And that's why standard operating procedures are very, very important. You cannot achieve operational excellence if you don't, as an organization, have clearly developed standard operating procedures. Because in those SOPs, the task will be listed, who is responsible for which task, and what expectation, and how those tasks will be measured. The second is feedback loops. You want to make sure as a leader you implement regular meetings with your reports, and make sure that you also get reports from your direct reports to make sure that you keep everybody aligned with the goals that have been set, and for achievement of overall organizational goals. And the last one I will talk about is technology leverage. You want to make sure that you leverage technology. Technology, as you all know, is an enabler. You want to make sure you use technology for proper project management. You want to use tools to monitor progress, to assess your team members' outcomes and their contributions. You can also use what we call dashboards to actually see from a glance how people are actually achieving set goals and targets for you to review as a leader. Dashboard helps leaders, CEOs, be able to have a high-level summary of what is going on at any point in time. And it is good if that dashboard is real life, is maintained from time to time, so that at a glance, maybe at the end of each day, you see where you are concerning key metrics for the organization, and you can focus on the areas to look into and to review what your subordinates are doing if they are not meeting the set target. So use technology to actually monitor the process, to assess, to appraise, and to evaluate what is going, and to actually have a glance of the performance at each point in time. So that's the overview of the key concepts in the art of delegation for CEOs. Now we're moving to the case studies section of this video. And the first case study we're going to be looking at today is a very popular case study. I've used it before in one of the videos. I think in the first episode of the CEO Leadership Series, first or second, I think I used this case study, but we're going to be looking at it from another angle today on the art of delegation. So the first case study today is on Netflix. And I'm going to be looking at the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings. And the context for our discussion for this case study is the year 2020. At that time, Netflix had grown into a global streaming giant. This was about 5 years ago. And Reed Hastings needed to free time for strategic pivots. Because even after achieving that feat, a lot of competition, a lot of also people trying to duplicate that success and compete with Netflix. Right now, the biggest competitor for Netflix today is YouTube. YouTube is that monster of the platform where streaming is at the A game. They have their own TV that is competing with Netflix, and they have their popular YouTube platform of creators that is now also competing with streaming and TV industry as a whole. So I'll leave that for you to think about. So in 2020, Reed Hastings was looking for a way to focus on more strategic things. And what did he do? What did he do differently? He promoted one of his key subordinates, a trusted key subordinate in the name of Ted Sarandos, who was in charge of content. And he also promoted Greg Peters, who was in charge of products, as co-CEOs of Netflix. And what he did with this promotion of two great guys was to ensure that he was able to delegate day-to-day operations to them and some key decisions to his experienced lieutenants, people that he has groomed, people that he has trained in the name of Greg Peters and Ted Sarandos, who are in charge of content and product division. So he delegated key day-to-day activities to them so that he could focus on strategic visioning for the company. And what was the outcome of this at the end of the day? This enabled faster content and product innovation. Remember that before he delegated these divisions, these key areas to them, he had worked with them one by one, he had trained them, he has groomed them, and he had already empowered them to be able to take those decisions without him. This is very, very key. As a leader, you must be able to get into the grind and show your team members how it is done. You must be able to do that. Once you can do that, people will learn and use mistakes as learning points. Mistakes you have made, mistakes they have made, to coach them, to train them again. So that by the time you fully delegate to them and leave them, you set KPIs, they now know what to do. They can think like you and even do things better because you have already trained them. So the outcome was that they had better content and product innovation. Was able to maintain what is called the keeper test culture that ensured only high performance stays in the organization. So what they did was that they ensured that they implemented what's called the keeper test, where they ensure that only high performers stayed in their company. The concept is called the keeper test culture. So you keep people that are high performers, and people that are not high performers, you let them go. So they did that. Where he was able to focus on the long-term vision of the company, and the company continues to excel. But right now, as we speak, they're going head to head in YouTube, which is a platform that is evolving, providing its own streaming service, just like Netflix, and also the content creation side has become also an alternative for TV viewing as we speak to them. So they are also coming up with ways to manage that. I'm sure it continues the vision of the leader and look for ways to achieve that also. The second case study we'll be looking at is that of a family business that turned into a big company called Saris Candies Incorporated, founded by Bill Saris. And the context and the background for this case study is a family business started small in the basement of Bill Saris, and the business was founded by Frank Saris, Bill Saris' father, and Bill had learned under his father how to, do chocolate dippings in their basement and all that, how to make candy at home. And they started this small business, started by his father, Frank Saris. And as Bill took over the business, he was able to mirror his father's approach. And his father's approach is that if I have to tell you what exactly to do, then I will just do it myself. So what he did was he gradually trained people that he could delegate tasks to, mundane tasks, operational tasks that he used to handle while he was working with his dad. He trained next level of leaders and was able to delegate these tasks to them. And gradually he was able to relinquish control of about over 20 small tasks, structured those tasks into clear departments and empowered non-family member staff of the company to actually do the job, because it was a family business run by the family. So he brought in other people, he taught them how to do the job, he delegated the job to them, and he was able to now focus on more strategic things. And the outcome of this decision was this transformed the company to a full-scale manufacturing and retail operation. They moved into a small family business into a full-scale manufacturing retail operation. Number two, it boosted employee initiative and morale and innovation, and allowed Bill Saris the time to focus on raising capital for the business, territory expansion, strategic partnerships for the business. And you can see the art of delegation in practice here. So we've come to the question and answer segment of the video, and I'm going to be taking 5 questions, sharing my own experiences, and giving my own perspective to these questions so that we can find answers and share experiences. The first question is, how do I determine which tasks to delegate first? How do I determine which tasks to delegate first? So what I can advise you is start by listing out your tasks. Do a delegation audit. List out your tasks, just like I explained in the step-by-step process. You start by listing out the tasks. Then you categorize them into what is strategic and into what is operational. So you have 2 headings. If you list out all the tasks, we're going to divide them into 2. Which of these tasks is strategic? Which of this set of tasks is operational? The ones that are strategic is for you, the leader or the CEO. The ones that are operational are supposed to be delegated to your team members. Those are the things that you need to know. So you now use the delegation matrix to visualize which tasks are high impact but routine. These are very prime for delegation. They are high impact, but they are routine. So you delegate them. Then focus first on the tasks that consume time without directly contributing to strategic outcomes. So when you want to delegate, the tasks that take a lot of time, but they don't contribute to strategic outcomes at the level of the CEO, you delegate them. So, and that's another way to look at it. You want to divide it into what is strategic about what is operational, or using delegator metrics, you want to divide it into what is, what consumes more time but is not strategic, then the things that are strategic, you can use it to divide it. And that's how you determine what you delegate first. The second question is, how do I build trust with my team to delegate more effectively? How do I build trust with my team to delegate more effectively? Trust is built through clear communication. I must say that. Transparency, empowerment are very, very key. You want to make sure that you establish regular check-ins and review and provide, a thorough onboarding for people that are coming to join your organization. Thorough orientation and onboarding is very, very important before you start delegating tasks to people. And make sure that in your organization, you create a culture where feedback flows both ways. You're able to give people feedback, and your subordinates are also able to give you feedback also. You want to make sure that you create that kind of organization where feedback flows both ways, and you recognize and you reward people, when they perform well. If you do this, this is going to reinforce confidence in your team and encourage people to be top performers. So that's how to handle trust and delegate more effectively. So the third question I'll be answering is, what if delegation goes wrong? How do I course correct? If delegation goes wrong, how do I course correct? How do I get back on course? And my own answer to this is that mistakes are inevitable in business. Mistakes are inevitable in life. And I would like you to use mistakes as learning opportunities. Use mistakes as learning points. When your delegation fails or your subordinates make mistakes, have a short brief with them, analyze the situation, what went wrong, and was it miscommunication? Was it lack of resources? Is it unclear expectation and things like that that you have also set for them? You want to make sure that you find out what actually went wrong. So you hold this brief session with them, and you adjust the process, and you assign the tasks, and you give them the advice, what they need to do differently. When they see this kind of challenge, this is what to expect. Because you have a lot of experience as a leader, and you are going to be able to help them to actually navigate, because you have been there several times in that scenario, at that crossroad, at that junction. So your wealth of experience, you go a long way in guiding them to say, when you are faced with this challenge, this is what you should do differently. So with continuous support and training and coaching and mentoring, you will get them back on track anytime they have any challenges. The fourth question is, how do I balance staying informed while giving autonomy? How do I balance staying informed while giving autonomy? And how to do that is to implement a reporting system that provides regular updates without you micromanaging the team members. So you can do that by your weekly management review meetings, where you look at KPI that has been set for them. And at this point, you see who is dropping the ball. You find out if there are mistakes that have been made, and you coach them, you train them, and you get them back on track. So you implement a regular reporting system, regular updates, regular reports, use dashboards, status reports, and schedule progress meetings with your team members. And when you do that, you are able to maintain oversight without you micromanaging them. And this balance allows you to be aware of outcomes while you are still empowering your team to operate independently as much as possible. The last question I'll be answering is this. Somebody says, what tools or frameworks can help streamline delegation? What tools or frameworks can help me streamline delegation? So earlier on, we talked about the delegation matrix, where we looked at how to use it in your leadership journey and make sure that you're able to clarify the roles, clarify the tasks, and determine what to delegate and what not to delegate. So what it does is it divides roles and responsibility within an organization, into who is responsible, who is accountable, who can be consulted, who can be informed for each task. So when it does that, you want to be able to use that to be able to make good decisions, for your team members. If you are using the delegation matrix, you want to be able to know who is responsible for each item, and you want to be able to use this tool to explain to them, and how to do it is, you want to know what are these decisions, who can make decisions, and the limits of those decision making and how to hold people accountable. Want to make sure that you're able to do that, And one of the importance of this delegation matrix is that you avoid bottlenecks, And number one, are there things that do not require approval that your team members can take decision on and move ahead? In one of the videos I talked about Southwest Airlines in the US, that were able to empower their members, even some entry level, middle management, to take key decisions on the spot and resolve customer complaints. And this helped improve customer perception, customer service, and improve the experience of the customers about them. So we want to be able to use this delegator metric to look at tasks, look at who can handle that task and who does not have the authority to handle those tasks. For example, we want to know who can approve a payment more than, let's say, $5,000 or 10,000 naira, whatever it is, whatever amount you want to set. We want to have the levels and the people that can actually take that decision. That's how you set up a delegation matrix. For each decision, for each critical tool, you want to set up who can take that decision and who cannot, so that it is clear whose responsibility is to respond at every point in time to every task and take a decision. So you can use metrics and frameworks to guide you in making decisions. So you have the delegation matrix, you can go and study it and also apply. There's so many other ones too that you can use. But what is important is that you want to be able to divide your task into what is strategic and what is operational. In summary, the ones that are strategic, you should handle it yourself as a leader, and the ones that are operational, you can now delegate to your team members. So those are the ways to use frameworks, and you can apply them, as many of them that you find useful for you in your business. You can apply them. So that brings us to the end of the Q&A section. I wish I could spend more time, but to make this video as concise as possible. So we come to the conclusion and the call to action. I want to say I thank you if you're at this point watching this video, for how far you've come. I appreciate your time you invested to this topic. And to recap, I would like to encourage you to know that delegation empowers your team. It doesn't take away control from you. If you are the CEO, you are the leader, you are the leader. Nothing is going to take that away from you. And for you to benefit from effective delegation, you have to be able to trust your team members, train them, mentor them, and empower them to also take decisions. They will make some mistakes, but you use those mistakes as learning points. And at the end of the day, you're looking at as benefit for your organization, increased growth, enhance productivity, empower teams with morale, with confidence, and reduce CEO burnout or leader burnout for you. So if I would summarize this message, I would say delegation is not about relinquishing your control as a leader. It's about strategically leveraging the strengths of your team to drive innovation and to drive success in your organization. That's what delegation is all about, So I want to encourage you to delegate today, and I want you to empower your team and transform your leadership approach from today. Please tag somebody that needs to listen to this video, a friend, a colleague, and let them watch this video. Also, I would like to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this video, and also let you know that we provide consulting, strategy for CEOs, executive coaching for CEOs one-on-one, and I also provide strategy consulting and management consulting for companies, for boards that are trying to re-strategize and position their company. That's what I do. I want to encourage you to watch this video, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching and have a good time. Bye.